Hello, and happy Thankers. While brainstorming ideas for this week's video, I was having a hard time coming up with something that fit. I wanted to do something seasonal, but there's a real lack of Thanksgiving-based media. Unless, of course, I wanted to do a deep dive on the Peanuts special and why Snoopy is a war criminal. But then, like Meryl Streep falling through the ceiling of a room full of her ex-lovers on an island in Greece, inspiration struck. Let's talk about Knives Out.
And all I've got to offer is sensitivity, intelligence, and charm.
I'm not really sure what it is about Knives Out that makes me think about Thanksgiving. It's far from an explicitly Thanksgiving-based film. Maybe it's because I first saw it in theaters in November. Maybe it's the plot surrounding a big dysfunctional family all getting together. Or maybe it's the sweater. Regardless of the reason, here we are. Knives Out is an absolute romp of a movie. It's not really a movie that requires that much thought. The subtext is kind of just text. Sometimes it can even come off as a bit ham-fisted. But despite all that, it's one of my favorite movies in recent years. And I think it has a lot of important things to say about performative activism and the American dream. Whatever that even is. Before we continue, I will be spoiling the whole movie. Since the movie is a murder mystery, you might want to go watch it before you watch this if you haven't already. Also, it's just a great movie, so go watch it. You know? It's synopsis time, baby. Knives Out is a 2019 murder mystery movie written by J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson. It's your classic whodunit, following master detective Benoit Blanc as he investigates the death of the patriarch of the Thrombey family, Harlan Thrombey, after a dysfunctional family gathering gone awry. Like most movies of this genre, the ensemble cast of characters is very important to the plot, and also very important to your understanding of the rest of this video. So, for those of you who did not heed my spoiler warning, let's do a roll call. Character descriptions courtesy of gradesaver.com because we are nothing if not professional here on this channel. Harlan Thrombey is the world's most successful mystery writer and the patriarch of the Thrombey clan. His death is the catalyst for the plot of the film, as is his altering his will before his death, leaving his entire fortune to the family nurse, Marta. Marta Cabrera is the Thrombey's family nurse and the main protagonist of the film. Marta plays a vital part in the film by creating an alliance with Detective Blanc. She believes herself responsible for Harlan's death. Detective Benoit Blanc is a gentleman sleuth of great renown, summoned to this nest of iniquity by mysterious means. Hugh Ransom Thrombey is Richard and Linda's son and Harlan's grandson, born with a honeyed but forked tongue and a silver spoon in his mouth. The main antagonist of the film. Richard Thrombey is Linda's husband and Ransom's father. He's your typical jackass. Linda Thrombey is Harlan's eldest daughter, Richard's wife, and Ransom's mother. She has a head for business and seems to have inherited her father's strong will. Joni Thrombey is Harlan's daughter-in-law and Meg's mother. She's super into crystals and junk. She's also an Instagram influencer and founder of the lifestyle brand Flam. Think like Goop. Meg Thrombey is Joni's daughter and Harlan's granddaughter. Well studied at the best liberal arts colleges in New England. She's a basic woke caricature. Walt Thrombey is Harlan's youngest son and Jacob's father. He runs the family publishing company, but he's more weak-willed than his sister and lives in the rest of the family's shadow. Jacob Thrombey is Walt's son and Harlan's youngest grandson. He spends most of the movie on his phone browsing alt-right for forums. Why can't I say forums? Forums. It's not that hard. And that's the cast of characters. There's also Lieutenant Elliot, but he's, I guess, not that important to the mystery, but I talk about him later in the video, so, like, there's also Lieutenant Elliot. Now that the technicalities are finally out of the way, let's talk about performative activism. Performative activism is a term referring to activism done to increase one's social capital rather than because of one's devotion to a cause. Something you notice when you're first introduced to the Thrombey family is that a few of the members seem to be very proud of how accepting or woke they are. Joni and Meg are of particular note here. Within the first 10 minutes, Meg has already yelled at a cop for referring to Marta as the help. The hypocrisy of these two characters becomes very apparent later, and likewise, we'll talk about it later. Wink. Leaning more right-wing than Joni and Meg, Richard nevertheless quotes Hamilton when describing the immigrant Marta to the police. Immigrants, we get the job done. Later, this same character is seen to be ranting about how undocumented immigrants are taking American jobs, pointing out how he believes that Marta is, quote, one of the good ones. You did it right. You worked for it. What Richard doesn't know here is that Marta's mother is still undocumented. He assumes that because Marta is a registered nurse, the rest of her family must be documented as well, or in his eyes, hardworking, moral, etc., etc. The irony that this character was quoting Hamilton earlier, saying that immigrants get the job done, is glaring. A running joke in the first half of the runtime is various family members claiming that Marta is from various different countries. One family member says that she's from Ecuador, another family member says that she's from Puerto Rico, Marta is from Cuba. And I'm just now realizing that nobody actually asked where she was from. They just felt that they had to fill in the blanks there. Interesting. Each individual family member also pulls Marta aside to tell her that they wish she was invited to Harlan's funeral, but the rest of the family was holding them back and wouldn't let them invite her. The joke being that if everyone is claiming that everyone else wouldn't let them invite Marta, then everyone, if not the entire family, is lying. These are all examples of the Thrombey family engaging in performative wokeness. But the most obvious case of this is the family telling Marta that they intend to take care of her financially after Harlan's death, that they see her as a part of the family, and that they love her, etc., etc. This tone quickly changes when it's revealed that Harlan has left Marta his fortune. They then make it very clear that Marta is not a part of the family. Now that she's standing in the way of their financial gain, she is not a loved one, but a threat. Which leads us pretty directly to the Thrombey family's victim complex. After the reading of the will, the family erupts into cries of "This isn't fair!" Joni and Meg tried to come at it from an angle of care and understanding, feigning a false support for Marta. This is all pretty quickly revealed to be lies, when Meg discovers that this change in the will result in the loss of her paid-for tuition. She calls Marta, explaining that she thinks it would be for the best if she gave up possession of the inheritance, appealing to Marta's strong sense of right and wrong. Meg tells Marta that relinquishing the inheritance is the right thing to do. Later, when Marta returns to the family home, Meg tries to explain that the family made her make that phone call. She didn't want to do it, but they were forcing her. But we know that it was really her fear of losing what was essentially free schooling. There's lots of "we're just trying to protect you. You know this isn't fair," sometimes even crossing the line into thinly veiled threats. Walt, knowing that her mother is still undocumented, goes to Marta's home and tells her to think of her mother, an obvious threat of calling immigration on the Cabrera family. The family here is doing something very familiar, stepping on the backs of immigrants in pursuit of their distorted version of the American dream, whatever that is. All this without bringing up the worst offender of victim complex, Hugh Ransom Thrombey. Ransom Thrombey has never had a job in his life.
Bobby Newport's never had a real job in his life.
His grandfather has always taken care of him, yet he walks around with this everyone else is fake attitude, when he's the worst offender. At one point, another character says that Ransom has never faced a consequence in his life. This line is almost immediately followed by a scene of Marta facing the consequences of her presumed role in Harlan's death. Spoilers, no, she did not actually kill Harlan. Ransom sees and actively calls out his family's hypocrisies while refusing to reflect on his own. Just like the worst kind of person. When the family assumes that just Ransom has been cut from the will, they remark that this might be the best thing to happen to him. Later, Ransom remarks that he didn't tell everybody else the truth about the will, that everyone was cut and not just him, because he thought it would be the best thing to happen to all of them. Acknowledging, yes, I'm the worst, but you're all just as bad as the worst. He's the main antagonist of the movie. He's meant to be a bastard. But some of the points he makes about the family are pretty valid. Segue time. According to the text of the film, the American dream, interpreted as pull yourself up by your bootstraps, is at least partly smoke and mirrors. In particular, Linda boasts that she built her company from the ground up. Ransom later reveals that she had the help of $1 million loan from Harlan. I can't help but think of Forbes naming Kylie Jenner the youngest ever self-made billionaire when thinking about Linda and her apparent success. In fact, the entire Thrombey family is guilty of this to some extent. Early on in the movie, Lieutenant Elliot remarks that all of Harlan's children seem to be self-made overachievers. This is proven to be less than true in all cases. Joni and Meg have been receiving a monthly allowance from Harlan to help pay for Meg's tuition. And Walt was basically handed his role in the family's publishing company. About midway through the film, Detective Blanc asks Marta to aid him in the investigation, claiming that he asks her this because she is the only person in the household that has nothing to gain from Harlan's death. Harlan had individually cut off each of his children on the night of his apparent murder. He felt that the family had become too dependent on his wealth, and had discovered that many of these dependents were taking full advantage of their aging patriarch. Not only is it revealed that this self-made image is a lie, but so is almost everything else the family feels they have a right to. When arguing against Marta keeping the will, the family argues that they allowed Marta the right to care for Harlan. It's their birthright. This is their family home. It's revealed later, once again by Ransom, that this family home has not been in the family for generations and generations, as they seem to believe. It was purchased in the 80s. Just another illusion. If we lived in a perfect world, things would end like they do in Knives Out. And the true American dream, whatever that is, would prevail. The rich would cut off their asshole children and instead give to low-income, hard-working immigrants. Harlan would clarify to his son that his books are his and not ours. He would recognize that he's been stopping his children from truly making something of themselves. Unfortunately, in the real world, this is rarely the case. this movie does have a bit of a fairy tale ending that would never happen in reality. It also has its issues when dealing with class relations, accurately portraying the plight of immigrants, and there's a bit of a white savior thing going on, etc., etc. But I do think that it offers an interesting critique on the American dream, whatever that is, and performative activism. These rich white people think that they're pursuing the American dream, but really this immigrant nurse with her undocumented mother is what that dream should really be about. That was the Knives Out video, which turned out to be a bit more of a thing than I was expecting it to be, which is turning into a pattern. LMAO. I had a lot more to say about it than I initially thought, and I still barely scratched the surface, so sorry. This video also made me super nervous for some reason. I feel like I need to clarify that all rich people suck, including Harlan Thrombey. I don't know, if something about this video like really pissed you off, don't like yell at me, but let me know what it was so I can do better in the future, because I can't seem to quite put my finger on it and I'm probably just being ignorant about something, and just let me know. Constructive criticism. If you liked this video, by all means, give it a like, give it a share. Hell, you can even subscribe if you want to. I'm not gonna stop you. If you didn't like this video, please see me after class. Happy Thanksgiving. Be smart, be safe. Bye. I'm not sure what about Knives Out makes me think thank you. That's what I wanted for my video, was some honking.